On our farm, we've got an area where we've had wheat on wheat on wheat on wheat. This is around our field day site. And now we're starting to see some wheat curl mites and some wheat streak mosaic. So we've got to figure out how we're going to eliminate this problem.
All right, I thought this was very entertaining. I talked to Brian and I said, Brian, we can't have wheat there anymore. We got to come up with a different crop. And he's like, what? No, I'm not giving up the wheat.
Right.
What can I do? Can I spray every week? Can I, change up my cover crop mix so I'm not putting any kind of grass in there and just do broadleaf? Yep. What can I do? Because I just don't want to give up the wheat. And it just makes it so much easier when you're in a corn, soybean area and you're listening to this thinking, wow, you got a mite issue, no problem. You just go away from wheat for a year or two. But in many areas of the country, you really can't. They don't have another viable crop. They're going to be doing wheat, and even if they don't, their neighbor the next field over is doing it. So how do we manage this, especially when we're in continuous cereal production?
All right, so the most important thing we want to do is we want to eliminate the green bridge. In other words, before we seed our winter wheat this fall, we want absolutely nothing growing out there for wheat for a couple of weeks. I mean, some people will say, oh, you got to be at least a week. I'd really like to see 2 weeks. Ideally, we'd like everything completely dead. Now, you can do that with tillage. You can do that with herbicide. We don't care. We just want everything completely dead until you seed that winter wheat this fall.
Well, your scorched earth theory is kind of nice, Brian, but what about cover crops? I'm going to have a cover crop out, and I'm not going to have grass in. I'm going to do all broadleafs. I'm going to do turnips, radishes, maybe a few other things.
Yeah, but how are you going to kill that grass? Okay, so our suggestion, number one, is make sure that we've got all that wheat. Any volunteer wheat coming, that's got to be dead. All right, so it's easy to do with Roundup. Now, if you say, okay, I want to raise just broadleaf crops, that's fine. We've got grass killers, so maybe something like clethodim. That probably won't hurt the broadleaf species that we have and would kill the volunteer wheat, but it's going to take a high rate.
Okay, well, what if we just kill the mite? What if we go out and say, you know what, I don't want to kill my broadleaf cover crop, but I'm going to use a miticide out there. You're going to spend some money doing that.
Well, yeah, but here's the whole thing. And again, this is for our field day site where I want wheat there because it's great for parking area, for everybody driving through and looking at all our plots. So we're raising wheat no matter what. And in that area, what could I do?
Obviously, no matter what. That's what lengths do I have to go
I said,
I don't have to give up my
wheat?
All
right, well, Darren, how about if I just spray miticide 15 times? Let's say I start rotating and I use Zeal and Lorsban and bifenthrin and Oberon and Onager, and I just keep rotating all of them. What would that then do?
Well, in addition to Brian going broke and not being able to buy me a Christmas present,
5 acres.
I mean, come on.
It's 5 acres. Who cares? But the whole thing is this. When you start looking online, you're going to see, oh, wheat curl mites, you can't control them with a miticide. Well, you probably could if you sprayed 15 times. Realistically, in your field, though, are you going to do that? No way. So that's why we talk about just eliminate the green bridge in your field. That usually is going to take care of the problem. Now, the other thing is these wheat curl mites are going to bring in disease. Okay, usually it's wheat streak mosaic, but it could be something else. And that's where we talk about use fungicide all the time. Try to keep everything else in good shape. If you have your diseases under control, your weeds under control, your fertility program is right, well, you know what? You've got a much more tolerant plant to the mites and to the wheat streak mosaic.
Well, you absolutely have to have a healthy plant, and getting that fertility program right is going to be a big thing. And you may say, well, wait a second here. We've got the problem now. What do I do now? But we're talking about next crop and having a very successful next crop. So we start with what can we do to get the seed out of the ground effectively? What can we do to get a great stand established? What can we do to have a healthy stand all the way through? And that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I got to get a whole bunch of nitrogen out there, because that's the first thing people think about when they think about fertilizing a grass crop. We're talking about P and K, and the micronutrients are just key. And if we get those things in place and off to a good start, the nitrogen we can add as we need it throughout the season. Putting a whole bunch out early just ends up getting us more tillers really quickly and more spots where we can have a problem. So I'm not a big fan of putting all that nitrogen out first. I want to get all the other things set. And that's what's really going to help us with plant health later on. The other thing you may even consider is a fall fungicide treatment. And I realize in some areas of the country, guys are like, what? We aren't going to do that. but it doesn't hardly cost anything anymore when you look at how cheap some of the generic alternatives are.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the big thing when you've got wheat curl mites, we want you to eliminate the green bridge for at least a couple of weeks, get everything dead out there, try to prevent volunteer wheat from coming for as long as possible, keep everything black or at least dead out there. That will mean the wheat curl mites have nothing to feed on. They usually die off. You can certainly try using a miticide. A lot of people haven't had the best success. Maybe multiple applications might do it, but otherwise it's really just that green bridge.
And part of that green bridge means controlling weeds like our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?